once the Bitcoin price crosses 100, 200, 300, 500,000, people are going to realize, holy shit, this is continuing to be the best performing asset in the world. How can I not hold this? And more people are going to buy it. It's just like, what the fuck? This society is so goddamn broken, and it's all because of the fiat money. And, I do believe there's a God, and I do believe he's going to come down and wreak vengeance on all these fiat assholes. I mean, he's going to make this fiat money worthless. And, then the rest of us, the remnant of this country, the people who are the workers and the honest folks, we're going to rise back up, and we're going to start transacting with each other and adding value, and we're going to use an honest currency to do it. And the most logical, honest currency with which to do it is Bitcoin, and that's what's going to happen. So it's a very optimistic story at the end, but honestly, the next 5 to 10 years, might be pretty turbulent. And but I'm with Sailor. We have to be cheerful and constructive.
Lepard begins by addressing the US dollar's precarious position. He acknowledges the recent legislative efforts, such as those proposed by Senator Lummis, to integrate Bitcoin into the financial system. While he appreciates these initiatives, he remains skeptical about their immediate impact. The real catalyst for Bitcoin's rise, according to Lepard, will be a broader realization of its value as traditional currencies continue to lose credibility. Lepard invokes Gresham's law, which states that bad money drives out good. He argues that as Bitcoin's price continues to soar, potentially reaching $100,000, $200,000, or even $500,000, more people will recognize it as the best performing asset in the world. This growing awareness will lead to a snowball effect, where increasing numbers of individuals and institutions begin to adopt Bitcoin, further driving up its price. Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space, and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
But I think everything that supports Bitcoin and makes the Bitcoin dollar, look, sadly, I don't think Lummis's bill's going to get any traction. I think it's a great move on her part. I'm glad she did it. It's, just like I'm glad Trump embraces Bitcoin, not even understanding it. It's all good, but in terms of actually having something happen as a result of that, I think the odds are quite low. If it did happen and they became they got on the bid for it and started buying it, it's going to push the price much higher. And you want to talk about what's going to cause the dollar to fail? It's going to be the realization. This goes back to Gresham's law, right? Once people realize that, once the Bitcoin price crosses 100, 200, 300, 500,000, people are going to realize, holy shit, this is continuing to be the best performing asset in the world. How can I not hold this? And more people are going to buy it. And so, that's just a problem until eventually everyone goes, it's kind of like, and it's going to be slower than this example, but it's kind of like the example of Silicon Valley Bank. The word spread, or like a fire in a theater, the word spread, and as the word spreads and spreads and spreads, more and more people realize, holy shit, this bank is bankrupt. Then one day, $100 billion of deposits. They had $49 billion of deposits withdrawn in one day. And one day later, the bank was bankrupt. And so that's that goes to, Parker Lewis's, gradually then suddenly, right? And so, there will come, in my opinion, and you've even had some people, like I say, you've even had some people kind of alluding to this. You got the Fed chairman saying this is not sustainable. Okay, well, I guess another model of this is the emperor's got no clothes on. The U.S. is bankrupt, and we're spending way too much money. We've got an uncontrollable financial and fiscal situation. So the question really is, who's going to be the little boy that says, hey, this guy's naked, and then everyone goes, oh yeah, you're right. Another perfect example of this exact same phenomena was, many of us were saying, Biden is senile. The guy has totally fucking lost it, right? We've known this for a year or two, and they gaslit us and said, oh no, he's great, everything's fine. And then finally one day they put him up on a stage in a debate, and guess what? We all know he's senile, and therefore he's no longer running for president. And that's what's going to happen. I mean, maybe not that quickly, maybe not that dramatically, but that's the kind of mental phase shift that's going to happen. And, by being aware of it today, my view is, the whole financial saying was, he who panics first panics best. I mean, if we're going to have a panic, if we know the dollar is going to fail, well, get the fuck out now. Because I'd much rather buy Bitcoin at 70,000, a coin than at 700,000 a coin. I mean, they're both going to protect you. But, I wish I'd been Max. I wish I'd been buying it at $2 a coin, but I wasn't smart enough or aware enough to do that. And that's why I'm not a billionaire. Yeah. And he is. But, it's to me, it's just an inevitable trend. And therefore, that's why I do what I do. And I just pound the table to people to try to protect themselves, because I can just, it's pattern recognition. I can just see this pattern. I've seen it in financial things for 40 years. And, this is going to go much, much, much higher. The only thing, in my opinion, Walker, that could change it would be incredible change at the government level to get more fiscally responsible. I mean, when people come to invest in my fund, sometimes they'll say, well, if they're smart, they'll say, what could go wrong? How do I lose money, Larry? What changes so that this gets fucked up? And I say, okay, it's pretty simple. And they laugh when I tell them this. I say, if suddenly the government says, all right, we're going to balance the budget, we're going to means test Social Security, we're going to raise the retirement age, we're going to close all the military bases, we're going to stop sending money overseas, and we're going to completely balance the budget so that we're no longer running a deficit and we don't have to print money. Well, okay, then suddenly having sound money isn't going to be as important, and the price of Bitcoin is not going to go up as much, and the price of gold is not going to go up as much, because the dollar won't be being debased as quickly. But, as you were smiling as I said that, because we all know, what are the odds of that happening, right? I mean, they would seem to be pretty low. They seem they're either low or they're zero. But, in both cases, I mean, I know which side of this trade I want to be on, right? It's just like, what the fuck? This society is so goddamn broken, and it's all because of the fiat money. And, I do believe there's a God, and I do believe he's going to come down and wreak vengeance on all these fiat assholes. I mean, he's going to make this fiat money worthless. And, then the rest of us, the remnant of this country, the people who are the workers and the honest folks, we're going to rise back up, and we're going to start transacting with each other and adding value, and we're going to use an honest currency to do it. And the most logical honest currency with which to do it is Bitcoin, and that's what's going to happen. So it's a very optimistic story at the end. But, honestly, the next 5 to 10 years, might be pretty turbulent. And, but I'm with Saylor. We have to be cheerful and constructive.
Lepard's critique of fiat money extends beyond economics into the moral and societal realm. He believes that fiat money is at the root of many societal problems, and that its eventual collapse will lead to a better, more honest society. He foresees a future where the remnant of hardworking, honest people will rise up and start transacting in Bitcoin, which he views as the most logical and honest currency. Lepard notes a subtle but significant shift in how countries are conducting trade. Traditionally, the US dollar has been the world's reserve currency, but this status is fading as countries begin to trade in their own currencies and settle their balances in gold. Lepard points out that despite a decline in gold ETF purchases, the price of gold remains strong, indicating that it is still being used as a reserve asset by many countries.
So, yes, we are the reserve currency. That's a plus. But we run a much larger trade deficit than anybody else, much larger. I mean, what do we export? We export weapons and money. I mean, people really, there's not much else. Whereas other people, Russia and a lot of other places, I mean, they're exporting stuff. I mean, real valuable stuff. What we're talking about here is, I mean, the dollar has a bid because it was the reserve currency, and it still is the reserve currency, but that's fading fast. And we got to go into something. We'll talk about gold in here in a second. What the answer to your question has to do with, when do countries start trading based on their trade balance and their investment balance, and not just on the power they've got and their military power, like what we've got. And so the military power and the fact that we are historically the world's reserve currency have been how the dollar is valued. So, I could see us being the last currency standing, but I could also see us going sooner than some other currencies that are in countries that are much better in terms of the balance of trade. I mean, because relative currency valuations often really have to do with just trade. I mean, what are you exporting? What are you importing? Because that's what those cross prices are. And more importantly, the real issue with the dollar is not I mean, Brent says, well, it's a milkshake, it's better. Fine, I ignore all that shit. They're all pieces of paper. They're all fiat currencies. I mean, there's nobody in the world who's really running a sound money standard. So that really doesn't matter. What matters is the dollar cross to gold and the dollar cross to Bitcoin. I mean, and those are the two clues that tell you, I mean, if Bitcoin's at $500,000 a coin and gold's at $10,000 an ounce, well, guess what? The dollar is failing on an absolute basis. So let's kind of touch there into another area that I think is relevant, which is, we're seeing, and this is big to me, in the United States. I mean, and you have to remember, we all believe Bitcoin's the solution, and it is. It's much better than gold. But, I mean, most people aren't where we are. Most people, in governments who are thinking, okay, we got to do a reset or we got to go back to sound money, the first thing that comes to their mind is gold. I mean, a perfect example, this is a really nice lady, and she's very smart, named Judy Shelton, who was nominated for the Fed. She's a sound money person. And I think that the general view is that we've got to go, if we're going to do a reset, it wowould be a reset to gold. And what you're seeing out there right now is you're kind of seeing that happen subtly but consistently. And what I mean to say is that everything, all trade used to be in dollars, but you're seeing now countries trading with each other in their own currencies and then net settling in gold. And that's why the gold, what's very interesting to me is the gold price has been very strong in spite of the fact that gold ETF purchasing has gone down. I mean, the Bitcoin ETFs have eaten gold's lunch, right? Bitcoin ETFs have gone from nothing to being substantial in size. Gold ETFs have been shrinking the whole time. Okay, you look at that and you would think to yourself, well, the price of gold should be going down, but it's not. I mean, yesterday the price of gold traded at a new all-time intraday high at 2458 or something. But and the reason for that is that other countries are using gold. They are using gold as their neutral reserve asset. They realize that having the dollar as a neutral reserve asset is a losing proposition. In other words, they're very much like the French were in '71. They can see the problem that we've got, and they're thinking, oh shit, I'm not hanging on to these things. I'm not buying any more treasury bills. In fact, I'm selling treasury bills. And China and Japan have both been net sellers of treasury bills the last 6 months. Other countries doing the same. And most people, I think, are just saying, if I'm going to try and store value, maybe I ought to do it in gold. Sadly, and maybe some countries are doing it in Bitcoin, but I don't think at the sovereign level other than El Salvador and maybe some countries in the Middle East. I went to a Satoshi's roundtable over in the Middle East, and there's some very interesting, highly placed Middle Eastern people there who, my sense is they might have a sense that Bitcoin is digital gold, but it's still pretty early days at the sovereign level from what I can tell. Now,
he finds it particularly telling that countries like China and Japan have been net sellers of US Treasury bills, choosing instead to hold gold. This trend, he argues, is a clear sign that the world is losing confidence in the dollar and is preparing for a potential reset to sound money. Lepard also touches on the possibility of Bitcoin being used as a reserve asset at the sovereign level. While he acknowledges that this is still in its early stages, he believes that countries like El Salvador and some in the Middle East may already be considering this move. However, for most governments, gold is still the first choice when thinking about a monetary reset. Please like and subscribe my channel.